Hello, everybody, and we welcome you to this week's edition of Sooner All Access. I'm Jim Powers, Assistant Commissioner of the SAC. And one of the big initiatives that we are doing this year in the Sooner is really promoting mental health. And this week is Mental Health Week all around the world, actually. And one of the big things not a lot of people understand is, our student athletes in the NAI and NCAA and in the Sooner. Everybody deals with certain things, and mental health is a big, big piece of this. And joining me today is somebody that has lived it as a student athlete, and now he's getting out and telling his story, and it's an unbelievable story. And so I want to welcome Gino Martinez in with us. And Gino, first off, tell everybody a little bit about yourself. Obviously, Texas Wesleyan, where you went to school at, did some great things, but kind of talk a little bit about what your story is and where you're coming from and why you feel it's important to give back to the current student athletes and really helping build awareness of mental health.
Yeah, for sure, Jim. So like you mentioned, my name is Gino Martinez. I'm still currently a student at Texas Wesleyan. So where I came from, it's not the best area as you could per se. So I came up in a really rough um area where basically where mental health is not really explained, it's not really mentioned. As in a Hispanic household, um, your goal is to basically work hard, work as hard as you can, and no matter what happens around you, just leave that behind. So you get that mindset installed into you. Basically, it's like it doesn't matter whether you're sad, whether you're angry, whether you're going through things. As long as you're making money and making a living for yourself, that's what matters. Especially as a guy, as a man. That's what father figures do as Hispanics. They go ahead and put a type of mindset where they want you to be strong all the time. They tell you that men shouldn't cry. They say that men shouldn't feel this type of way. That men should be just hard as a rock and not even break at all. So you know, my whole life I've been playing sports. I did cross country. I did soccer. So those were my main sports. And cross country, I was pretty good. Soccer, I was pretty good too. And I got the chance to go ahead and basically go to Westland to go play for like 2 years only. And but it's like all I knew was soccer, basically. That's all I knew. I knew sports. And as an athlete, you grow up just having a schedule set for you. No, there's nothing else that you plan on your own. Your coach set the schedule for you to tell you when to
Yeah.
practice, when to go to sleep, what to eat, what not to eat, what type of training. Don't be doing this outside of school. Make sure you do this. So it's a super strict schedule that you set, and just imagine for all these years of having the same schedule, not having your own time, not having your basically um your own decision of when to open your schedule on certain things that you have to. And nobody really thinks about it because they're doing what they love, you know.
Hmm.
So in their head, they're like, "Wow, okay, I love doing the sport that I love," but it doesn't really help them, or does nobody really explains to them how much it's actually hurting them on the aspect of um what to do with their life in the future, or even what's gonna happen after I finish playing sports if I don't go to the pro route. And that really I could say that really went ahead and hurt me. Because all I knew was sports. So if I didn't do good in sports, it was over. If I didn't do good in the game, I was destroyed. I was like, my mindset was like, what's all this training for? What did I do this for
Hmm.
if I went ahead and perform really bad? So we don't got enough people helping us out or helping athletes out. That to get them in the right mindset for them to start planning for something that they're not used to. And so when I went ahead and decided to step down because of, life issues, which is, family, work, and school, um, I was,
Which happens to everybody. Life happens with all of us.
yeah, and I was lost, Jim. I'm telling you, I was lost, man. Like I had no idea what I was doing. I knew exactly the major I was doing, which I'm doing criminal justice, but at the same time, I was lost. I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life because all I knew was sports.
Mhm.
Nobody really guided me to the right direction, just in case I stopped doing sports. After sports, after I finished, I had all the time in the world to do whatever. Even though I had work, like I was doing a full-time job. I was doing full-time school and I was doing full-time sports. So my schedule was pretty much packed. But with that opening of me quitting or not, yeah, just quitting soccer, being an ex-athlete, it just went ahead and took a huge toll on me because I was lost because my whole identity was sports. That's
Hmm.
really what it was. So I went through this rabbit hole, to really a dark hole, dark phase where I was kind of like, what am I doing with myself? What am I doing right now that's being valuable and helpful to get my future going, to get my career running? And and it's just amazing. And and I did like a lot of research on my own, because I was the type of guy that I didn't want to go to therapy because I was the type of guy that wanted to just go ahead and figure things on my own, to go ahead and just get things done on my own. I don't really like asking for help. I'm so stubborn. I still am at times. I won't even lie, it's still a challenge for me. But I'm getting there. I'm getting better at, asking for help, asking when I need help. And something that I figured out is that ex-athletes go through identity foreclosure. And for the people who don't know what it is, it's when an athlete assumes an identity as an athlete without exploring other interests. This can lead to challenges when transitioning to life after sports. So that's what I had. I had a hard time transitioning from being a student athlete to just a student. From from having my schedule set every day, all day, every second of my life, to now planning on how I'm gonna schedule my life, how time is very valuable, and you don't come to
Hmm.
realize that until you stop doing something that takes a lot of time, which is sports.
You mentioned something a few moments ago, and I think it resonates. And it resonates. I'm a former coach. I've been around athletics my whole life, basically. But you mentioned one piece that I think student athletes they don't understand is there is help out there. There are people that care. And if they don't know the answer, they can find the answer or point you in the right direction. And I think that's where a lot of students, and you hit it right on the head. It happened to you. You quit playing sports, you graduate. And people don't understand that only 1% of any collegiate athlete is going to make it to the professional level. And so now you got to figure out what you're going to do moving forward. And it is a toll. It is a mental toll on student athletes. But I think the biggest piece of it is there is help out there, but people need to ask. And I think that's the biggest thing is don't be a hardhead or don't be stubborn. And I'm the same way. I mean, you sound a lot like me, and but there is a lot of help out there for people.
Oh yeah, for sure. And it's the first step is to get out your comfort zone and understand that sometimes you can't do it alone. That's the biggest step because um let's be honest, Jim, here. You being a coach or even being an ex-athlete, me being an ex-athlete, is that when you're in a team sport, the main focus for the coach is to make sure that you are ready to go to war, which is every sport that you play, whether it's football, soccer, cross country, track, whatever. They prepare you to go to war. Why? Because they want you to perform the best. And the one thing that a lot of coaches also tell you is, if you are hurting, if you are not your best, do not show it. Why? Because you don't want to show that weakness
Hmm.
to your opponent at all. So imagine growing up with that mindset, right? It's like at least are trained to have a poker face. They're trained to have a emotionless face.
Yep.
So after all these years of them playing sports, after all these years, hurting, that's why a lot of D1 athletes or D2 JUCO, they end up hurting themselves and they don't show it, but they still end up playing their game and they end up having an ending career injury. Why? Because they're so used to coaches telling them don't show, don't show, don't show. And that's the problem that we have. That's the problem that we have with a lot of athletes, that they they are so caught up with themselves that they don't want to stop playing, or they don't want to show the coach, they don't want to lose their spot, they don't want to lose their scholarship. And that's the main thing, that they're afraid. And so they're afraid to ask for help. They're afraid if they ask for the coaches for help, that they're gonna get cut off, or they're gonna go ahead and cut their playing time. Someone's gonna take over their spot. which they didn't understand. It's part of playing sports. That's how it is. You're gonna get injured. You're there's gonna be times where you don't perform the best, but if you need help, you have to look for it. But the thing is, coaches sometimes have so much in their hands, and I don't blame them at all. They're trying to find out strategies to beat their opponent. They're trying to find
Mhm.
best workouts. They're trying to find the best strategy to get their team together. That sometimes playing therapist or playing as a father figure for these athletes, it's hard. It's hard to tell, especially when they're training them to be emotionless. It's very, very hard to go ahead and just for them to spot when their own athlete in front of their nose, under the nose, is going through things.
Yeah, without it. And once again, one of the things I always said when I coached basketball is, when I was a head coach, I was a big brother, I was a father figure, I was a guidance counselor. I mean, and you're exactly right. So it's not the coaches, fault, but I think one of the big takeaways is you need to ask, people, that understand, and it may not be a coach, whether it's an administrator, whether it's an assistant coach, I mean, there's always avenues. And I think that's why really the big push for mental health is happening these days, because the dynamic has changed so much over the last maybe 10, 15 years, to where it's all about winning. It's winning and this, that, and the other thing. And that's really taken a toll on our student athletes. And that's where what you said is, there is help out there, whether it's on campus, whether it's not on campus. There's a lot of different directions you can go with this.
Yeah, for sure. And I actually want to ask you a question, so do you know what's the leading cause of death of NCAA or any college level athletes? Like, do you know what's the death? It's suicide.
I've heard too many stories about that, and absolutely, you're exactly right. You just nailed it right there, my friend.
It's literally suicide, and it became second. If that's it's under one below under accidents, which could heart defects
Mhm.
of playing sports, car accidents. It shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't be that way at all. Like, why is suicide the second largest leading cause of death of any NCAA, uh, a college any college level sports? Why suicide? It tells you so much that we don't do enough, as a whole. We don't do enough to go ahead and realize that mental health, depression, all the anxiety, it's a huge thing. It's a horrible thing that people go through, and sometimes they believe that they're not able to find help or take it, or they don't want to be basically they don't be a bargain on someone, and they don't want to go ahead and mess. Not how can I put their problems towards them, because that's how I used to feel too. I don't want to
Mhm.
put my problems on someone else's back so they could worry about me. That's the last thing I wanted to do. And it has a huge toll, because we're talking about practices. We're talking about keeping their grades, their GPA, make sure that they have a higher GPA to be able to play. And then, a lot of these athletes, they don't just play for themselves at times. A lot of these athletes are playing to go ahead for the family. Most of them are first generation students that have never been. Most of them are from lower income um cities or households that they have no idea how to go ahead and handle this type of pressure, because some of them all they knew is sports, and a lot
Mhm.
of times they didn't try hard enough in education in high school, because all they knew was, if I get a scholarship, that's all that matters. So from transitioning to high school to college, and knowing that they have to go ahead and try harder at their education to go ahead and make sure they play enough, it's a big toll. It's a huge toll that takes on them, honestly.
Yeah, and the one thing too, and what I think, one of the messages we need to get across to our student athletes is that yes, you've got a schedule, and it's a rigorous schedule between practices, games, travel, homework. You always need to find at least an hour for yourself during the day, because if you can figure that piece out, then you're going to feel a lot better about yourself. You're going to feel a lot better about what's going on around you. And that's the biggest toll that I've seen, is a lot of people don't try to make a little bit of time for themselves and take, it's that self-care. piece that you, I'm sure, have gone through.
Oh no, yeah, for sure. And it's, you hit the spot with that. And it's true what you say that we have to find an hour and a half, even if it's 30 minutes for yourself where you can go ahead and relax. Um, because sometimes you get too caught on with the moment of sports, that you believe that you don't have time for yourself or you don't have time for anything else. But the problem with that too, Jim, is that a lot of these athletes, when they have extra time and they're going through something, they usually lead to addictions, which is alcohol, which is drugs, and that's the downfall for a lot of these ex-athletes or even
Mhm.
for even athletes at the moment, former athletes, So that's the problem that they don't have that someone. We're not doing enough. And like I know people say we need to find a therapist, but sometimes what these athletes need is a sports therapist, someone who was in the field of them playing football, playing soccer, playing cross country, any sport. Is that we need a, even if it's like nonprofit or if it's just someone who's volunteering, but every college needs to have at least one, because these athletes really need to have someone to talk to that went through the same thing. Because it's not the same if you talk to a therapist that has never played a sport and had to juggle training, studying for a test, studying for midterms, studying for a final, doing homework, making sure that you're performing right. So it's a huge gap. It's a huge gap because sometimes if you just talk to a regular therapist, sometimes you still feel disconnected with that therapist because they've never went through the same thing.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And we're starting to see a lot of that now. We're starting to see a lot of former athletes, like yourself, so to say, that are kind of getting into that, lane of, hey, I want to give back. I want to help. I want to tell people what I went through and make sure that I can try and help them not go through the same struggles that I did. And that's why I think, really showcasing Mental Health Week this week, what we're doing. And, one of the things that we want to do is we want to be the trendsetters, so to say. We want to lead the way. We don't want to follow it. And I think doing this and hearing your story is really putting mental health into the forefront and building upon some of the things that in the sooner we're going to be doing moving forward.
Yes. And that's the plan, I really hope that we can get the word out there and make this thing bigger. Because honestly, it's just getting worse. Now let's be realistic here for a second. It's getting worse at every day, every second of the month. Especially now since these student athletes are able to have deals. They're able to have the sponsorships, get a lot of money. Like a lot of these athletes don't know how to manage their money. They don't know how to do these things. And so it takes them down a very dark road. And with this media, all this attention to their face with all this new technology, the news, like they have so much pressure to them, so much. A lot of these students, a lot of these young adults, they're not trained for media at all, at all. No one's helping them what to say. No one's
Right.
telling them how to run their money. No one's telling them how to spend it. So giving them millions of dollars, thousands of dollars, it's it's a very tough situation to put them on.
No, without a doubt. And once again, we're in the day and age now of NIL, and yet you absolutely just hit it on the head. Well, I love hearing your story, and I know the kids at Texas Wesleyan that have heard you just absolutely love what you're doing, and really giving back to them. And hopefully, a lot of people will watch this and they'll kind of see some things click maybe and try and find a little bit of help and find their direction and path on what they want to do. But it's great to hear your story, Gino.
No, it's it's a pleasure and a great opportunity that you're giving me to go ahead and speak out for something that I'm standing for. Um, is just I don't want them to feel like they're alone. Because for sure one thing I did feel that I was alone, that I was alone during the whole process, and that's one thing that every student athlete goes through, or even every athlete. They feel like they're alone at this situation where they're feeling, just stuck. And so they could, if they know that someone out there that played sports as well, that went through it, if it could kind of help them, like, okay, I could find some help myself as well, let's go ahead and do it. And this is baby steps, like you said. We're just trying to go ahead and baby steps make it out there because it's not huge right now where colleges are trying to help students yet as much. But we're starting to get to that time where people are starting to realize, okay, this mental health thing is something actually serious that we have to focus on. And I'm just trying my best to help them out.
Well, you're doing a terrific job, Gino, and I appreciate you taking some time out of your busy schedule. And hopefully, me and you can chat a few more times throughout the year and shed some more light on some of the great things that you're doing, but also talk a little bit about what we can do to help our student athletes across the center.
Oh, for sure. There are certain things that I went ahead and wrote down that can help student athletes. One thing is educate them about mental health. Includes depression, anxiety, panic attacks, being feeling anxious. If they could identify those type of feelings that they're having, just know that mental health doesn't mean that something's wrong with you. It's just a feeling that you're going through that you don't know how to deal with, and that's taking a huge toll on you. Um, as well, if they want to perform better, they have to set their mind at ease. Because healthy mind means they're able to go ahead and perform the best, absolutely best. Because it's true, you have to have a strong mental health to go ahead and perform strong. Because if you're at your lowest, it's possible that you might not even perform at your best. Uh, One thing too is, it'll help if these coaches as well, maybe once a week sit down with all their players or just do a daily check, like a weekly check with every single player, like, hey, how you feeling? How you feeling? You feeling anxious? Just kind of take notes. And if they can, have standby someone that they could talk to if they're feeling this type of way, so they can get some help right there at the moment or set up a time. Um, Mindfulness. Mindfulness can help athletes recognize difference between performance and their self-identity. So if they can go ahead and identify those two and set those apart, that would
Mhm.
be. And then finding a mentor. If they could find a mentor, oh, that'll help so much because they could go ahead and just kind of talk to the mentor and build a very strong connection and trust in between them, and they could go ahead and just feel better about themselves. And last thing is a support network. If it could, even if it's just a student at least getting together talking about the problems, that's good enough, and that's a great start.
No doubt about it. Well, we're going to get these points. We're going to put them up on our website. And for our student athletes that are watching this, there is a tab that's devoted to student athletes on this Sooner website. And one of the things is the NAI Mental Health Toolkit. And we're going to be adding a lot of stuff into this. And we'll take what Gino put down and we'll add that in there. But some great points. And Gino, love talking to you, my friend. And let's do it again here in the next couple months. And let's really do what we can to help our student athletes out here in the Sooner.
Sounds good, Jim. I can't wait for it.
No doubt. Gino Martinez, current student at Texas Wesleyan, also a former student athlete for the Rams, and he's doing unbelievable things. And it's great to talk to him about his struggles, his way of kind of getting out of things with mental health as we celebrate World Mental Health Week here in the Sooner Athletic Conference. I want to thank Gino for being a part of Sooner All Access. I'm Jim Powers. We'll talk to everybody next week with another one of our great stories going around the Sooner.